All right, we will call this meeting to order for Waseca Public Schools. Tonight is our regular business meeting. Today is Thursday, August 19th, 2021, and it's 5:30 p.m. We are in the Central Building, second floor conference room, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I make a motion to approve today's agenda.
Second.
First and a second. I would like to make a motion to make an amendment to add the dental dollar amount to our payment of claims, and that amount is $18,185.15.
Second.
First and a second. So any discussion on my amendment, and then we'll go back to the original motion. So I'm just adding, Elizabeth sent it to us yesterday by email, and I just said I'd rather just get it done with since it's with this one's payment of claims anyway. So, all right, can I get a vote then on the amendment to the agenda? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried unanimous. Any further discussion about the agenda? All right, then can I get a motion? Or I'm sorry. Then I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried unanimous. All right, and then we will move on to our recognition of visitors. Before I recognize everyone that is in the audience, I do want to welcome our new student council rep, Eliza Stankovich. Thank you for being here. She's representing the senior class. And of course, we have Lindsay Katz here as well. Everyone in the audience, thank you for being here. If you wish to speak, we have a sign up, or if everyone who wants to speak has signed up, and I did put you on. So. Everyone, we have a policy that we follow. I forget the policy number, 206, I think, isn't it? Yeah, 206. And that gives everyone up to 5 minutes to discuss. I'll call you up, and then you can come to the podium and just state your name and your address so that we know that you're part of Waseca Public Schools. And then you have 5 minutes to discuss whatever you would like. Did we have any emails that
I did forward it to you.
Okay, so I will have everyone in person speak first, and then I'll read an email that we're going to speak. Also, anyone at home, just know that you can always send the email to waseca@gmail.com, and I will read that in a future meeting. So the first person on the list then is Alex Nadolski. Close?
Yeah.
Welcome to come forward, and thank you for being here.
Hello, my name is Alex Nadolski. My address is 813 4th Avenue Southeast here in town. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I've never spoken in one of these here thingies, so forgive my nervousness. My daughter is 11 years old. She won't be eligible to receive the COVID vaccine until the end of September. She has not been in school since March of 2020. She'll be going into 6th grade. She attends Team Academy. The distance learning she received was a challenge that left a lot to be desired. Started out strong, then it kind of petered out. So at what I would call great personal expense, my wife and I paid for an online tutor to help her keep up with what she was missing out on. My daughter's mental health and well-being has suffered greatly during this time. She has always loved school since preschool and kindergarten, and she desperately wants to get back to it. I think we can agree that we all want our kids to be safe. I don't think that's a radical statement. The reason I wanted to come to this meeting tonight, I guess it takes something like this to get me off my butt into a meeting, is because I would like to find out from the school board Are and/or will all teachers and school staff be required to be vaccinated against COVID-19? If so, how will that be enforced? The other question I have is, will all students and staff be required, not encouraged, not recommended, required to wear masks inside school property? And again, how will this be enforced? Could wearing a mask be amended to the school's dress code policy? So there's not a mandate necessary. Write it into the dress code. My daughter can't wear spaghetti straps, but she wears something that's been proven to slow the rate of spread of COVID-19. The Delta variant is here. It may not be as prevalent up here in the north as it is in the south right now, but it's coming. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And Waseca is considered a hot spot right now in the state of Minnesota, along with 11 other counties. As you can tell, I'm sure, my wife and I have a lot of fear for our daughter. We're both vaccinated, but we can't make sure that she's around people that are. She went to summer school for a month this year. She was the only kid besides one other girl in her class to wear a mask. The teachers didn't, the students didn't. Even though the bus companies are required to have masks on when kids are in the bus, nobody wore a mask on the bus, not even the bus driver. She did. Thankfully, she's doing well. But as we all know, September and October roll around, and that's when kids come home with the flu and with colds, and that's when we all get it too. I don't want my daughter to go to school and come home with COVID. I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about her. Children are required to be vaccinated for measles, mumps, chickenpox, etc. before they can even go to public school. Why isn't the same true with COVID? For those that are eligible, and for those that aren't eligible, why can't they wear masks? The CDC is recommending that people wear masks inside, but that's left up to people to decide whether they want to or not. And I understand that. What I don't understand is the willful ignorance that's being exhibited when it comes to the health of our children. We say things like, oh, kids don't catch it as often. Well, that's like the old saw about how kids are resilient. They're not resilient. They learn to adapt to their trauma because we as adults don't know how to deal with it. So we say they're resilient. They bounce back. Kids under 12 cannot receive the vaccine. They rely on us, the adults, to do what is necessary to keep them safe. So again, I'd ask the questions. What's going to happen when September rolls around and kids go back into the classroom? Are they going to be told to wear masks? Are the teachers going to be vaccinated? I've been told by the principal of my school that most of the teachers have been vaccinated. Well, that can't possibly be true because most of the adults in the world aren't vaccinated. Most of the adults in America aren't vaccinated. It's about half of them. I'm trying to determine if it's safe for my daughter to go back to school or not. In sixth grade, this age, this is a crucial time for kids because she's going to have to make that transition to seventh grade with all the social stuff that comes with that, all the puberty stuff that comes with that. That's enough to worry about on a normal day. I don't want to worry about her catching a disease that has killed 630,000 Americans already and still growing. I don't know if I did this right or not, but I appreciate your time and I hope I can get some answers to my questions because I honestly don't know what to do, if I should keep her home again or let her come to school. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Dolskowski. I think we will probably address some of your questions later in the meeting, so.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our next person who wanted to speak, Darren Spies. Spies?
Oh, you had it right the first time.
Sorry, Spies. Thank you for being here, and repeat your name and then just your address when you.
Doxing me? I am Darren Space, 14116, Tudor Lane, Waseca. Graduated with her a long time ago. So I don't mind speaking in front of people. I've been doing it pretty much my whole life. So I also want to talk about COVID. First thing I want to bring up is as far as masks. I know that that's going to be something on the agenda today, and in regard to masks, there is no evidence whatsoever that masks. Everything is anecdotal. There's nothing out there from any consensus of epidemiologists who deal strictly with viruses and diseases that will tell you this. If you go to many websites, some will tell you, yes, it helps. Some will tell you that it doesn't help. So if you've got this and this, it's obviously not a fact, is it? You can't have two differing opinions and have one fact, can you? It doesn't make sense. It's completely illogical. Now, am I against people wearing a mask? No. If it makes you feel better, by all means, wear a mask, wear a chemical suit, something that's going to keep you away from some sort of, I don't know, nuclear holocaust. But you can't tell people, somebody's child, that they need to wear a mask. 4.2 million kids have been diagnosed with COVID. 0.008% of them died. Tragic. To have a child die is absolutely tragic. In 2018 to 2019, the flu season, more kids died of flu than they have in the last year and a half that have died of COVID. So, what was the school's plan to prevent student death for influenza in 2018, 2019? If you're going to address COVID for the upcoming year, I would like to see what the statistics were and the plan of action was for flu each year prior to this. Because if you haven't addressed it then, flu, what are you going to do this year about the flu? Not COVID, flu. If more people die of that disease, shouldn't that be addressed? We are worried about our kids' health, right? Health matters. What about mental health? What does putting a mask on a child do to their mental health? Little kids want to see mom and dad smile. They want to see the teacher smile. They actually might want to see the teacher pronunciate. How is a kid going to learn A through Z when a teacher's doing this? That's not helping education whatsoever. And sure, you could say, well, kids have remote learning. I had a hard time in school. Put me in front of a computer? How many of these kids you saw go from A to C because they were in front of a computer? You are not doing them any favor. The psychological damage of these kids having to wear masks, stay home, not be with their friends, not being able to communicate, not learning the right way, the way we did, that's worse than putting them in, risking COVID and a 0.008% chance of a fatality. They have a better chance of dying coming to school in the car with mom and dad. So are we going to walk the kids to school? How are we going to get them here? Because they could die on the way. Don't let them out in the rain. Lightning will kill them a lot sooner. Odds are you should probably not let them take a shower because they could fall down. Give them a bath. How many things are we going to protect our kids from that there's such a minuscule chance of them dying that, I mean, it's just not making any sense. We want to develop an immune system, right? So are we going to have these kids have a mask on and inhale their own toxins? What's the most disgusting part of your body? It's not what you sit on, what you breathe out. So each day we have our kids breathing in the crap that you don't want to sit next to. So you have to keep breathing in. And what are we doing to these kids as far as their lungs? We're not helping them. That's not at all helping them. So it doesn't make any sense to keep that up. So one thing that we hear about is the PCR tests. We now know that they were getting pulled, right? Because we don't really know how many people had flu and how many people had COVID. There's actually a scientist, epidemiologist, who's suing the CDC because he did 2,000 samples of COVID to find out who had, how many people actually had COVID, because you hear about the false test. Anybody have a guess of those 2,000, how many were COVID? 0. Most of them were influenza A. Some influenza B. So all these numbers of COVID might not have been COVID, could have been influenza A. So now we go back to influenza killed more people than COVID, killed more children than COVID. So again, what is the school's plan of action for influenza? Because if you have COVID, you better have influenza.
It's been 5 minutes, so if you wanna.
I better finish up. And, well, and as far as that goes, if the school does ask, have you had a vaccine? Have you had COVID shots? Whatever it might be, are you also going to say, do you have hepatitis? Do you have AIDS? Do you have HIV? What other diseases that are transmittable from A to B are you going to ask, invading these kids' privacy? Because, I mean, it's a slippery slope if we keep going down there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spees. And then we have one more person. We have one more person on the list who would like to speak, Ann Gerber. If you just give your name again and your address.
Sure. Hi, I'm Annie Gerber. My address is 300 9th Street Northeast here in Waseca. I am the parent of a 10th, 7th, and 2nd grader here in Waseca, and I'm here to talk about masks. I'm concerned that the current message from the school is that masks are recommended. I fear that that language will mean that most families will choose to send their kids to school without a mask. I would like to dispute the previous speaker. We do know that masks work. There's a lot of research out there showing that it does decrease the transmission of the virus. And COVID is not a sexually transmitted infection like the referenced infections. I'm getting off script though. I'm here because I wish that the school would require rather than recommend masks, ideally for K through 12, but especially K through 6, because those kids can't get the vaccine. Like, we need to take care of them. We do know that masks work. We know that they are a relatively easy preventative measure. I know that a lot of people don't like them, and I get that. I have to wear one for work, and I have to enforce mask wearing at work, and it's not fun, but I think we should prioritize our kids' health rather than people's comfort. The Waseca Public Health Department, the MDH, the CDC, they're all recommending that everybody inside a school building for the upcoming year should have a mask on, regardless of their vaccination status. And I would encourage you all to use science and public health guidelines to make decisions about our children.
All right, and then we have one email. Let me pull the email up. All right, this email is from Jody Pierce. Subject was masking at school. Yes, please. Hello, I would like to put in an email for pro-masking at school, especially for 12 years and younger. Masking is our best tool for the unvaccinated. Please consider how our case rates are going up in our community, not down. If we set the standard for masking right away when school starts, it will be that much easier for the kids to incorporate it into their daily routine. I know that if masking is recommended, very few will wear one. Masking will also help tamp down other illnesses that are sure to surface once the kids all get together again at school. The reason why community spread was not coming from the schools last year is because children were masked. Masks work. Let's use masks at least until the vaccine is okay for the 12-year-olds and under. Let's be proactive, not reactive. Thank you for reading, Jody Pierce. Thank you for that email, Jody. I appreciate reaching out to the school board. So everyone, I know y'all made comments, and I appreciate everyone being here tonight. So, we will address some of the comments that were made publicly when we get to item B on our action items, which is about this resolution for our health and safety measures for the school year. But now we'll move ahead to our payment of claims, and Director Demo, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion for the payment of claims in the accounts payable of $263,813.66 plus $18,185.15 for dental, and then $918,448.95 for pay.
Okay, I have a first, can I get a second? Any discussion? All right, hearing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Can I get a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. And then we'll move on to our information items and begin with the superintendent report from Mr. Husband.
Thank you, Board Chair Anderson, School Board. Appreciate everyone being here this evening. I have two topics to talk about, and the first is kind of our back to school update, which will include some of the thoughts which we talked about, which we'll find in our resolution for your consideration later in the meeting, but then also just some of the logistics of our new school year. So we're excited. The activities are underway. Sports started up this week, and we had students participating in marching band, and our activities are getting underway. We have the feel of a new school year as we have things going on right now, and you can drive by our building really any time of the day, and we see activities happening right now, which is kind of exciting. Our teachers are preparing, our staff is getting ready. When you think about what the next few weeks look like for our district, so next week our new teachers and new staff will report next Tuesday the 24th. So that's exciting that we have, as of right now, 12 new staff members joining our team for this school year, and we have the opportunity next week to have them go through a 3-day process of orientation to get prepared to work and support students in Waseca Public Schools. And then all teachers the next week, the week of August 30th, will come back for that Tuesday through the remainder of that week to kind of be prepared to get back to see our students again then after Labor Day. So our goal for this fall is to really provide as normal of an experience as we can for our students. We know that the last year and a half has provided a series of challenges. Some have been, I would say, in an indirect way, helped us learn some new things about how we can learn and how we can teach and how we can go through things. But we know it's not ideal, and we want to get back to some sense of normalcy with how we're proceeding. So our intent here coming up in the next few weeks will be all day, every day school, for lack of better word. We're back to 5 days a week. We're back to instruction. We're back to kind of going about as normal as possible as we can. We did use some of our ESSER money, which I know you're well aware of, to decrease some of our class sizes to make sure that our students are still going to have some room to spread out in classrooms and things like that, but not, it'll look very, very normal. I think and of course, what everyone's wanting to hear is what is the recommendation for some of the back to school safety pieces, excuse me. And I think what's important to note, and with no questioning of our neighbors and other things, that what I'm concerned about is saying that this is what we're going to do 3 weeks before our students actually come back into our buildings. I think what we're seeing right now is a significant change in what's happening in our community. We are, as of this moment, not hearing about that from our families, fortunately, which we would need to keep as part of the conversation as well. But we know there's still almost 3 full weeks before our students come back. For our Hartley students, it's 3 weeks from today that they go back to school. So we still have a significant amount of time with the rapidness of how things are evolving to decide if there's going to be any changes. So right now, what you'll find in the resolution for you to consider later on this meeting is continuing with the recommendation of wearing masks for in our buildings, and not changing it to require at this time, as we're not seeing impact in our buildings as of this moment. And then pieces about hand washing, pieces about distancing when you can, or staying spread out. The resolution also gives us flexibility to change if we need to. One thing that I can see us having to potentially consider is targeting our response to a particular grade level or to a particular building. If we have to make a change to, the hot topic is masks. If we would have to make a change in that regard, I could see it being something we might have to target to a specific situation that we have. We do have response plans in place for flu-like illnesses, which we would then respond with if we do have any unfortunate cases in our school. We would continue to respond in that way. So I think the message is we really want to target our response as much as we can. And 3 weeks out from school, what we do not want to do for families is continue to flip-flop what our expectations are. And so the recommendation in the resolution tonight is to keep our recommendation as it is. And then we continue to monitor it and watch it very closely and move forward from there. The other part of the resolution that's important for you to note as school board members is that much like last year, the resolution is that the superintendent, in consultation with the board chair and the entire board, has the authority to make some adjustments as we need to along the way. And the purpose of that really is so that if we have a specific response we have to do for a classroom or a grade level, we don't have to call a board meeting to be able to make that adjustment. What I do want to be very clear though with both all of you and our community in general is that if we were to make a significant change, let's just say a mask change, that would be something we'd have to have the entire board's comment and say that. That would not be something that the superintendent would make and mandate without consultation from the board, because that just is something that you are in position to help support and make decisions, and it would not be something that would be unilateral in that regard. So we're thinking about academics and instruction this year. COVID-19 and the evolution of how things are working is continuing part of the conversation. It's unfortunate that we're continuing to talk about this when we really want to be thinking about getting kids back in class and learning. And our goal is to keep kids at school. Our goal is to keep kids learning in person, and we continue to do that. The other back to school update that I'll just make the board aware of is that our enrollment continues to be a little bit challenging to pin down. As students are making their August, we're catching up with people that may have moved, catching up with people that may have moved to town, and we're having the opportunity to finalize some of those numbers. Anxious to see how our September enrollment numbers shake out. I don't see that we are going to be fewer than we mentioned we predict in our preliminary budget, but I don't know what the actual final value of that would be. So I'm going to stop there because that's the back to school part of my report. See if you have any questions or if you want to save it for the resolution later on. And then I do have some strategic planning updates for the board as well.
Questions for right now? Or I just want to clarify another part of our health and safety plan or preparedness plan is if you're sick, stay home. Like right. That's an important one.
Yes.
So it's not just what we do in our buildings, it's also what happens at home.
Yes.
And just because the resolution as it reads tonight, and obviously we haven't even approved anything, is recommending masks at this time, it doesn't mean that a requirement won't come at some point either. So, correct. Or we don't know. We have no idea.
I think it's
premature.
It would be premature to say never is never, but I don't. Like I said, our goal is targeting where we need to support students and staff, and so we would be irresponsible to say never.
Right.
But right now, that's the recommendation.
And ultimately, our goal is to be in school. So that's, yes.
I just have a question on staffing, where we're at for the coming school year.
Feeling good. No, we are for instructional staff and teachers, we are staffed at this time. We still have some paraprofessionals we're looking to hire, particularly at the high school, junior, senior high. But for our teachers, we are now hired and excited to get started next week with them.
Thanks.
Any other questions for this part of the update? All right. Sorry, I didn't give you enough time.
No, that's okay. That's like I mentioned, it's the throat piece that continues to get me. For strategic planning, I just wanted to mention to the board, we're continuing to work on the vision cards. We've talked about this over the last several work sessions and board meetings. We have some data coming in the next few weeks, our standardized tests, as well as school year attendance and enrollment things that we use to finalize some of those things here by October 1st is our goal to have those vision cards ready to go. Had the opportunity to speak with the Superintendent Evaluation Committee the other day, Tuesday, and with regards to those vision cards really being a driving force to how we evaluate performance moving forward. We know that we'll be continuing to prepare and use facilities and finance topics as our PD topics for this fall. I'm hoping to work with Elizabeth and Julie to decide which our first session will be in September, working through those as our PD topics based on your board goals. And then the last piece that I wanted to share with the board, so you have a chance to know this is coming. So as part of our strategic planning, we're using HumanX as a resource. And if you recall, HumanX is our tool that we use to hire administrators, a standardized structured interview that we utilize with our new administrators. Part of that planning is they have a resource for board leadership. It's called the Leader Talent 12. And it's very much like a board version of the Strength Finders. And it's in survey format. And you have the opportunity to take that survey. It takes about 20 minutes. And then what you'll do as board members, as you so choose, to schedule a follow-up one-on-one session with somebody from HumanX to be able to say, here's what your strengths are, here's what you have questions about as a board, here's what you want to leverage with your team in terms of your skills. And that'll be happening here later in the month. And so you can expect an email from HumanX next week regarding that. So I just wanted you to be aware that was coming. Later on in the month, there'll be something called the TeamX survey, which is more of how we work together as a board team. And then that takes about 5 minutes. And then we potentially will follow up with them in a work session in October on how that goes. Like I said, it's very similar to a Strength Finders for the board. It meets our strategic plan goals of building a strong workforce, developing a board, and then also your PD goals of learning more about leadership and how you support from a board perspective several of the topics we've come up with over the last several weeks and months. So I just wanted you to be in up to date that that's continuing to move, and we're excited about getting those department and school vision cards done in the next few weeks and seeing where that takes us for our goal setting process.
All right. Any other questions for Eric at this time? All right. I will move on then to our financial update from Elizabeth.
I appreciate the opportunity to, I'm going to share 2 items with you this evening, but again, please feel free to ask questions on either of these, or if anything else you have that you'd like some more information on. Right now, we are currently working with the Department of Education and building our levy now for actually the 22-23 school year. The reason I bring that up now is that'll be something that we discuss in September. We'll be bringing the preliminary levy to you as a school board. So we'll be working at committee level, definitely with the finance committee, just talking a little bit about more of the details of what goes into that and the process that ensues throughout the levy process. Again, preliminary levy in September. The final levy would not be set until December. The other item I wanted to bring up shortly is just as a reminder to families, through federal waivers, our students this year will currently receive free and reduced lunch, no matter if they have been eligible in the past or not. All of our students will be eligible for free and reduced lunch because of the federal waivers available. But just as a reminder, it is still extremely important to continue to fill out those free and reduced applications. There's a lot of benefits that are tied to families individually. A prime example was other benefits outside of the district through sometimes the Department of Health and Human Services. There was a food program. It was called PEBT. It still is continuing, I think, through September, was based on those free and reduced applications. And some families didn't fill them out because, again, they had received free and reduced lunch last year. Everybody did. But so that since they didn't fill out the applications, they weren't eligible for those. So just really want to encourage families, if you feel like you may or may not be eligible, please just go ahead and fill those out. We'll absolutely process them. Because sometimes there are benefits that we don't know even in the future that might be accessible to families. Sliding fee scales, scholarships are all, there's a lot driven by free and reduced eligibility. And as well for the district, there's a lot of financial assistance available to districts based on our free and reduced population, and a lot of programming that we're able to provide our students because of the funding based on those numbers. So for example, a lot of our interventions, our title programming, our EL services, class size reduction, there's a lot of great benefits that are associated with this above and beyond the benefits for food service. So again, just a very gentle reminder to families, if you've got the opportunity, please continue to fill out those applications. You should have received a household letter, but they are also available on our website.
And they're on the website under the food service.
Yes. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, WCCO yesterday, their morning program had a really good segment on getting everyone to fill out the free and reduced application. And they did a really nice job explaining the many, many benefits of it, whether or not you qualify for it. So, anything else, Elizabeth?
That is all I had for this evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll move on to then our committee and board member reports. And I know, Lindsay, you need to get going, so I'm going to start with you if you don't mind me putting you on the spot.
I made a list this time, so now I'll know. So I guess as far as the high school goes, the band just finished our second week of band camp last week. We got the entire show on the field, so everything's there. So everything will be there at the next football game, we promise. And we just finished the band garage sale that the band boosters put on for us, and we helped pick it up, and we did a parade down the street to help go clean it out, and it was really cool to have normalcy again, just a parade going down the street with people cheering. It was awesome. We have evening rehearsals going on. That's actually our go tonight. And then we have our band parent preview on August 27th. So I believe that everyone is welcome. So I guess if you're interested, my guess is everyone is welcome. It's called, yeah.
I'm not going to check if we're actually a parent.
Yeah, I don't know. You all can be my parents, I guess.
All right.
And we have the State Fair Parade on August 29th, and as far as we know, it's a go, and we got the schedule for it, and so really excited to get to be part of the State Fair again, and we're excited to be back in uniform and ready to go. We also started sports this week, and I'm in volleyball, so we started volleyball on Monday, and we have a scrimmage tomorrow against everyone in the section. So it'll be really cool. They're all coming to Waseca, and we're just gonna scrimmage like a tournament tomorrow. It'll be super fun. You want to talk about it?
Okay. Like you said, sports started. So I manage the football team, and that started on Monday with our fall camps. We have 6-hour practices Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then 4-hour practices on Tuesday and Thursday. And we started our cookie fundraiser for that. So if anyone wants cookie dough, let me know, because I have my own setup for that. And so yeah, and then we got some new coaches this year. They're doing pretty good. Oh yeah, and for FFA, we have our officer retreat this weekend, and we leave Saturday morning, and we get back Sunday evening.
You guys think it'll slow down once school starts? I mean, you guys are really busy. All right, well, thank you. And so, is the student council met over now, or?
Oh, yeah. So we met 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago? Sure. Time flies, guys.
Yeah.
We met like 2 weeks ago, and we just had a leadership meeting, and then we have a meeting scheduled for Sunday, and we'll talk about the upcoming school year and our plans before we are ready to go.
And our meeting Sunday is with all of student council, not just the leadership team. And then, yeah, we have, we're planning like the August 30th is the 7th grade, like open house, is it called? Orientation. Open house, yeah. Okay, so we have some people working on a team for that, for people to work that and show the kids around. And then, yeah, so
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. So, Lindsay, feel free to take up whatever you need to. I appreciate Van giving you to us for a few extra minutes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's fine.
Okay. Dave, anything you want to talk about?
Yeah. Did anybody else, I think Julie did, watch the MSBA summer seminar online?
And I think Grant was on.
Hey, Grant. Okay, because I've got a bunch of stuff here, but I don't want to steal
Go
all
nuts.
the
I
fun.
don't mean, you were not stealing any thunder.
Okay. This was about 2 weeks ago, and again, it's the Minnesota School Boards Association Summer Seminar, which they did online this year. There was like about 5 or 6 different parts to it. The first part, the first thing on the agenda was a Minnesota Safe Learning Survey report put on by 2 gals from the University of Minnesota. And I'm just going to kind of give a couple of points that they made. After they got done talking about the survey, they talked about some of the concerns going forward into the coming school year. One of the things they talked about was mental health. Second one was student engagement. Third one was students falling behind academically. And the fourth one was teacher and student workload concerns. The second thing on the agenda was mental health, student, staff, and you. And this was put on by a couple of people from the Dover-Iota School District, just east of Rochester. They talked about having professional development during this coming year that supports mental health. And they also talked about it was important that board and administration support district wellness plans. The third thing on the agenda was titled District Equity and Inclusivity Framework. And this was put on by the Forest Lake area schools. And their big thing was to make sure that you embed equity and well, that's a hard word to say, inclusivity right into your strategic plan and curriculum. And then there was a short Minnesota Department of Education update presented by Heather Mueller. And the final topic on the agenda was really, really interesting. It was about the possible Minnesota constitutional amendment. There's a movement out there to put this on the ballot. I think maybe not this November, but next November, because it has to be approved by the voters anytime you want to actually change the constitution of the state of Minnesota. And this presentation was put on by Kurt Schneiderlin, who is the executive director of the MSBA, and Dr. Terry Morrow, who's kind of the legal guru for MSBA. And they talked about the pros and cons of this possible amendment. And they didn't really, I don't think.
We haven't fallen on a side. They really just gave the facts.
Yeah, and what it is they're talking about wanting to change the Constitution so that a quality public education becomes a fundamental right in the Constitution. And that's not how it's worded now, but that's what they'd like to change it to. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more discussion in the coming year about this. And then we'll see if it ever goes to a vote or not.
Yeah, so anyone watching at home, obviously our state constitution provides for public education. And so there's a statement in there that explains that the state will provide public education and they'll pay for it with property taxes and that kind of thing. And so this amendment just kind of changes the wording, and there's some concerns about changing the wording. What does that mean? And so that's why there's some debate about it going on, and there'll be quite a bit more debate going on in the next year or two. But there's a lot online if you want to look up the Page amendment. It's from our former Supreme Court Justice, Minnesota Supreme Court Justice Alan Page, and very interesting debate going on. So
right on.
Thank you. Anything else to add? Or?
Nope, that's enough.
All right. Adita.
We just had our first negotiations meeting, and it was very interesting. It's something new for me. So now I started to learn new things, and I'm looking forward to the next meeting. And we had superintendent evaluation, but I will.
Oh, okay.
Thanks a lot.
All right, for finance, we continue to look at facilities, the safe routes to school. There is a delay, probably won't be done until the end of September, hopefully. And then also the use of our ESSER funds and where we kind of stand on that. So, and then facilities, ongoing projects with some delays, but none of the delays for the projects will have anything to do with, or will hurt our programming for students coming back. And that's it.
could hardly get their windows installed that they were looking at. Yeah. So nothing that's building wise that's going to make it tricky to start school.
No,
Nothing that'll affect program.
inconvenience.
We did have a personnel committee, that was kind of like right after we had to reschedule that on the fly, but mostly that was just talking about, in the district office, they're kind of evaluating what needs to be done and what's not getting done efficiently and how they can shift duties around with existing personnel to be more efficient and to get everything accomplished better. So that's kind of what's going on there. And then we're working on a contract change for Clint Link since he's going to take on the job of career pathways coordinator. So that should be done hopefully at the end of the month. Is that correct? Or?
Yeah, the personnel committee will see those proposals next week.
Perfect. And then also kind of changing how the website gets updated and hopefully making that more timely and yeah, timely is probably a good way to put it. So, and then yeah, we had our superintendent evaluation committee, and we talked about basically we're going to meet every other month at minimum. We could always increase it if we feel the need to, and we'll review Mr. Hudspeth's progress on his annual goals. I also think it's probably a good time to review our own progress on the board goals. We can kind of just talk about it amongst ourselves if we wish, but that's kind of the essence of that. And then, yeah, our negotiations meeting was really good. We just kind of made sure everyone knows who we are on both sides, so the district side and then we met with the teachers union and kind of set our ground rules and expectations. And went over some language issues, but we haven't talked any dollars or anything yet. Well, that'll come later, probably later in September. So, and I think, and Dave covered the summer seminar very well. So thank you, Dave. I'm good. So.
Mine was basically covered with the finance, just kind of setting the stage as well for the next stage of where we're going to be at, discussing the future of Hartley. And then the policies that we're looking at are just really good reminders with the equal opportunity and the disability. Things just to be aware that you don't necessarily think of with employment, but it's really good to be aware of.
I too was at the negotiations meeting here a few minutes ago, and that went well. I did run into one of the folks that is on the arena committee here a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember exactly, but he said they haven't been meeting. So he said,
so you're not missing anything.
So you haven't missed anything. So, but other than that, that's been used.
Is there policy no ice, no meetings? Is that what you do? Or?
Well, that's becoming, probably in a month, 6 weeks, or 6 weeks or so. So basically, the ice is on its way.
Did you want to start us off with our recognitions or positive board feedback?
I don't have a lot, except that I did read on Facebook here that Jerry and Joel Fritz have been working with the marching band people for, seemed like forever. So it was a good job that they have done, the amount of effort that they have put into the band, and continue as they don't have any grandkids, I know they do have grandkids, but anyhow, yeah, so I want to recognize Joel and Jerry for their contribution to the band program.
Cool. It's been fun to watch Mason Watt with his horn, how he's got a little following here in town, and it's such a good entrepreneur attitude to learn. It's a really nice skill. And then talking just to some of the soccer kids, they're excited. The season has started, and there's no restrictions on who can go to games, right?
Correct.
So I can go this year.
I know I really appreciate Mason's business that he really took off this summer, but my husband overplanted our own corn, and so I'm trying to eat all of our own corn. It's like never. So next year I'll tell him to plant less so we can support Mason. Oh man, I don't know. It's just in my freezer right now. I just want to recognize that the student council every single year has sent some really awesome representatives. So Eliza, this is your first meeting. I appreciate you being here. But we've had quite a string of really awesome representation, and I just appreciate always hearing what's going on in the high school. And I'd love to figure out a way to get some kindergartens in here too, or something, or other grade levels. But I appreciate what student council does, and that you guys are able to come to our meetings. So thank you.
For me, my biggest one was the band and well, not just the band, the outpouring of community support for not only athletics, for their band and choir. All the stuff that they had for the band set was extreme. So that's it.
Well, I think most of the things were said already. I'm excited for what's coming.
I have two. I spent some time this week online looking at the Community Ed Fall brochure. So I would just like to thank Paul Demora and his whole staff for all they're doing to try to get Community Ed back where we would like it to be. And since Charlie brought up the marching band, I had a conversation this week on the phone with Mary Williams. And in the conversation, I thought I knew this anyway, but I asked her the question. I said, Mary, when did you start on this group? She said, day one. I said, have you always been the secretary treasurer, like forever, never, 34 years? And she goes, yes. So I just think that, and there are other people on that committee too that have been on there for a long time, but certainly nobody has been on there longer than Mary. So just want to acknowledge that and thank you for that.
Eliza, anyone or any organization you want to recognize?
I kind of mentioned it earlier, with just like our new football coaches, and they really came in and fit right in with the group. So they're doing great so far.
Good. Looking forward to seeing all the highlights from fall sports seasons and stuff.
Can I ask her a question? What's your prediction for the football team? Best guess.
I think we'll be fine.
That's a very political answer. Good job. All right, so we will move on then to our action items. Can I get a motion for item A?
I'll make a motion to approve the received gifts and donations.
First and a second, any discussion? Do you have a full motion?
Yes, I have two. I have three.
Oh, so you could have bought the helmets yourself, or you could just, yeah.
Yeah, I just was, I saw the last year, the girls and boys, they were sharing just one helmet,
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
And I was not able to give before the season, but I'm sure they will use it.
I'm sure they will.
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, then I will call for a vote, and this is a roll call. So when I say your name, just say aye or nay or yes or no, whichever you wish. Dave.
Yes.
Adita.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Julie is yes. Katie.
Yes.
And Charlie.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous. All right, so item B is our resolution for adopting health and safety measures for 2021-2022. And you guys can disagree with me, but I kind of feel like we should probably do a discussion before we make a motion. Does that sound reasonable? Or I mean, we can do either way, but I feel like maybe we should discuss first. So, or if someone wants to make a motion, and then we can discuss.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay, I have a first.
I second it.
Okay, I have a first and a second. All right. Any discussion? I know Adita wants to say something. Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to provide my input regarding the health and safety resolution, especially regarding section 2, and I can read the part. The superintendent is hereby authorized and after consultation with the school board chair and a notification to the school board to select and implement different health and safety measure for the school district of any specific school building without school board action if superintendent reasonably believes that prompt implementation of different health and safety measure is necessary. First of all, I would like to say thank you to our superintendent, who really has been doing a great job since he started last year. I know I can trust him regarding many areas that he's responsible for, like ensure the stability of our budget, ensure that we have best teacher hired, ensure that our kids are safe and will be ready for the next steps after graduation. I was elected to serve as a representative of the communities, families, and as an advocate for students and at the school district. I do not personally believe that I was elected to make a decision for 1,800 children and their families regarding the health concern and questions. I'm pleased with current recommendation presented in the resolution, but I do believe parents should be ones who decide for their own children regarding the mask or vaccine, not the school board or not our superintendent. COVID will not go away. We need to learn how to live with this infection and still make our children able to enjoy going to school, to be safe and learn, and don't need to stress out with wearing the mask. It is our responsibility to let our children have a normal life as possible. Thank you for your attention.
At some point, we'll need to read the resolution also, but we can continue with discussions. I should have made you read it for you. But I personally have some thoughts on this as well, and I don't know how far I want to go into it, but I really didn't think, like, when the school year ended, that we'd be having this discussion at all. Like, the school year ended on such a positive note, and we spent quite a bit of time this summer being very positive. Yeah, so we're in this period of uncertainty. We've received a lot of emails, a lot of conversations from people weighing in on both sides of this issue about wearing masks. So I've heard both sides. I understand both sides. And we can all watch the numbers daily. We can see them continue to go up. We can hope that they go down sooner rather than later. But the truth is, right now, we're not in our buildings, and we have no idea how many students are affected right now. We have no idea who's sitting at home in quarantine or who is tested positive. And we really won't know this until school starts. So it's hard to know how to start school, but I do appreciate that we have time to make that decision. We still have 3 weeks until school starts, and I think we can wait. But the reality is, our younger students do not have access to a vaccine, while our older students and all of our staff do. There was a question earlier from during the public comment period about how do we deal with influenza. There's a vaccine for influenza that's available for everyone. So that's not the case here with COVID. We've taken precautions in our buildings. We've improved air quality. We've learned a great deal from the last year about how to better mitigate the situation. One thing I think we can all agree on is that we want students in school, in front of teachers, in school, and not at home. So I think it's realistic to assume that masks may be required at some point. I don't think we're talking an entire school year. I don't think we're talking an entire trimester. But I just think it's realistic that we might need to do something to further mitigate any kind of outbreak that we might have. So I think this resolution gives us flexibility. So we're not definitively saying this is what the school year is going to look like. We're allowed to we're making a recommendation, and we can change that as we need to. Eric and I talk frequently. We have a meeting almost every week about something or another, whether it's official chair, superintendent kind of meeting or not. But I think, except in an emergency situation, we can certainly call a meeting of the board. We can have an emergency board meeting, which doesn't need a ton of notice, although we like to give the public as much notice as possible. We can call a special meeting with 72 hours of notice. So we have time to discuss any changes to our current recommendations as a board. So even though the authority rests with the superintendent with this resolution, he really doesn't want to make that decision without the input from the board. Is that correct? Yes. So that's why I feel like passing a resolution like this is very similar to what we did last year. We passed a resolution giving the superintendent the authority to change our learning model, particularly if we needed to do so quickly. I think almost every time we changed it, it was during a board meeting that you let people know what was going to happen. I don't think there was an emergency situation.
We have to remember it as it's the same but not, because last year we were talking primarily about learning models.
Yeah.
When it came to this resolution, we're not having any competition about learning models right now. Our kids are going to be in school, full time. This is more about just what might be the best measures when they're in school.
Yep. Yeah, I think until this vaccine is available for more people, I appreciate families wanting to make this choice for themselves around masks. For a public school, we do have the priority of all 1,800 children and we want to keep everyone safe. We want to keep everyone in our buildings in school for this whole school year. So, so that's my convoluted thoughts on on this resolution. So. Anyone else want to add something to it?
My only thing is I think we did have a small look into it with our summer school programming and how well that went. And I think that we really didn't have any issues with summer school programming. So, I mean, I think that is a small look into what we're going to be looking at, hopefully with the school district. I know for the school year, I know it's a lot more numbers, but hopefully we're in that same kind of area, I would hope.
And one thing we really have, like, one of the things we are trying to do this year is continue to keep our classroom sizes smaller, right? So we are talking about, we're trying to keep those numbers smaller so we can distance better. So that's something, and we can also contact trace better as well, so.
Yeah, and we've learned a lot about how to just, as you can tell in your personal conversations, as people are distancing, people are keeping themselves where their comfort level is, but you're right, Scott, we had a successful summer school. Not the volume of students we'll see this fall, but at this point, to your point, Julie, that's where the recommendation would be, because we don't see it impacting our student population.
So if we have a student that has COVID, what's the procedure? What procedure are we using there? Or that you're using?
Yeah, so that student would have to be home for a minimum of 10 days till they're symptom free.
Okay, so the student is quarantined at home for 10 days.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So what about the other children in the class? What happens there?
So we would notify their families that they've potentially been exposed to a positive case.
Okay.
We tell them what the CDC would recommend.
Okay.
They do for quarantine. And if they are, in this recommendation, if they're symptom free, they have the option to make that decision based on what they see is best for them. If they have symptoms, they have to stay. Well, I shouldn't say obviously, have to stay. Sure. If they're staying in the same household.
How does testing work in the procedure?
Testing works in the procedure if you are quarantining for a 7-day period of an exposure.
Okay.
You can test after day 5.
Okay.
The Department of Education sent us an email within Tuesday late in the day on some options for testing in school. It's not something we've looked at right now. It's something we're going to utilize right now for us, I don't think, but the option is there. If families should want that, we can explore that. We can have that conversation in the coming weeks with that, but not for, it certainly would not be something we require for students.
Yeah, so all this kind of stuff came up pretty recently about school districts having access to more testing.
Right.
But I don't know if we have the resources to really do this.
Well,
regularly.
what it is, it's kind of a hold harmless type concept where if you there's grants you can access through MDE to pay for your cost of test if you choose to do that. You're not going to make any money on the deal, but if you choose to do that, basically the cost would be covered. If you had to hire somebody to do it, but it's not something that I've thought about would be probably a good fit for us. But we'll watch as it evolves. It just came out Tuesday.
Yeah.
And what I would like to suggest would be to add to, the comment that, I don't mind make decision for us except the mask mandate for vaccine. I mean, I would like to call it out. And in that scenario, if this is the case, we will meet and discuss, bring the data, and then make the decision. That I would be comfortable if this is added to the resolution.
So I'm sorry, what do you want to, that we would make the decision?
When there is, I'm pretty sure there are some decisions that will not be only mask mandate or something. I would like to call it out because we are giving the authority to decide to Eric. Even we said we will meet. I would like to have it on a piece of paper in resolution that if really cases are off the roof of we will meet, make decisions together based on the data and still get somehow input from the parents. You have 1,800 families. We don't know, is it 50-50? Is it 80-90, 80-20 or backwards? We don't know, we're just guessing. I know we need to make decisions, but we should have the data to support us. That I'm not saying everybody will be happy, but
so All right, so be under section 2.
So I'm wondering if under the language that says to select and implement different health and safety measures, but if the board was interested in considering that, you could add language with the exception of mask or vaccine decisions. And that would be something that the board could consider adding to the resolution.
So are you just thinking of a full district mandate on masks to vote on?
Any change regarding the mask or specifically to our district?
All right, so we could just add a sentence that you're authorized for. I mean, I don't know what other health and safety measures we're really talking about other than masks, are we?
Well, this resolution talks about strategies of physical distancing, hand washing, staying home when sick, quarantine procedures. Those are all part of this.
Okay.
As well.
So then maybe add a sentence about following consultation with the superintendent, the board will determine mask requirements or something like that, or I don't know, is that where you're going with it, or?
I think we need to have data and more, we just need to discuss.
Well, that would be part of consultation.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, or that would be part of the meeting.
But I made my motion on the original word.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah, so we could amend to add something, but we need a motion to make an amendment. And then we can vote on that amendment, and so we can choose to pass that addition, or we can choose to not pass that addition. And then we can go back to your motion of passing the resolution.
So can you tell us, you know, we have a certain percentage of cases in the county of COVID. Is what the cases in school, is that reflective of what we have in the county? Is there a correlation between the county level and what's the impact of cases going on in the school?
There has not been, no.
There has not
There has not been, and I do not have this in a formal data collection set, but my observation from this spring would be that we had a steady trickle of positive cases in our district.
Okay.
Staff or indoor students, and it didn't really change based on what's happening in the county. So the county numbers went up, we still had the same number of active cases in the buildings. If they went down, we had the same number of active cases in our buildings. So to answer that question, it's a little bit just observational.
Okay.
I could actually try to pull the data, get it for you, but I did not see a specific correlation.
Okay.
That last spring anyway.
And we have no idea how many of our students are testing positive right now.
At this time, I wouldn't know that.
I'd like to come from a little different angle here. My hope is that we can keep as many kids in school as much as possible. That should be goal number one. Everything else comes underneath it. And I'm not comfortable with the idea of a kind of a shotgun approach to this. I like Eric's term, targeted. Now, we can make that target can be small, it can be large. We don't know, but we have that flexibility. And I guess that's the other word I have written down here is flexibility. What gives us maximum flexibility to keep our kids in school, give them a good education, but also do it wisely and safely. So I guess I'm okay with the original wording, and I appreciate what Adita is saying. I just am wondering if that's really necessary, because if we have maximum flexibility under the original wording, then hopefully what she would like to see would already be there.
Like that we would address it at the time when it comes up. That would have more of a.
Yeah, I don't think the flexibility is impacted by the language. I think the point, I think what I'm hearing right now is the point is there's a concern that I'm gonna have to make a decision quickly without the board's consult. We don't want that to happen. latest master vaccines. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I think I'm hearing.
I think that when you read this, you don't know. You read it and you have no authority. Something called out with more details, specifically what I think should be there. It's my opinion, and I would like to.
Well, I think, I mean, if anything, like right now it reads, the superintendent is hereby authorized after consultation with the school board chair and notification to the school board. And we could change it to consultation with the board.
What I was gonna say, what if you strike the word chair?
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, basically I'm saying take away the whole part of the chair and the notification of the school board. You're gonna consult with the school board before you make a decision, is what it would be. So.
Yeah, and that would include, would I be correct? That would include what you're thinking of?
But again, the superintendent will make decisions.
Well, the superintendent is authorized.
Authorized, yes.
Well,
I'm just saying.
Yes.
I'm not comfortable with the wording that is there.
I'm comfortable with it as it is because this worked really well for us last year. Like we have a whole year of, we had a resolution that was for a different purpose, but was read very similarly and worked very well. Like I don't feel like any decision was made last year without you consulting the board. And I felt like we were always, every time, like we said our piece and we agreed. But I think you're suggesting that we should make a motion and approve any kind of change is what, right? Like not just meet and consult, you would like the board to.
So for me, I think I'm okay with if it's a class, making them mask or maybe a building. But the one that I would like to see is the overall, if you did a district-wide mandate on masks, that I would like to see a vote. But if it's just the situational, there could be too much of that, and it would get real.
That's kind of where the line the board has to draw. Do you want to be meeting on every situation, making a board decision? We have to draw the line somewhere, or you can choose not to. That's what the board has to consider in this conversation. So.
I mean, I don't think if something happened for the class or something, I don't think we could quickly resolve. But I'm not saying. I just don't feel comfortable. I think there is a risk, and I know you want to react very quickly because it's a class, but even whole school, for me it's concern, that's where we as the parents are, like where are our decision or right. I'm sorry, and I know that's just how it is, but I just want to call it out. I should have make choice for my children, one way or other way. I like it.
So. Just to clarify, did you want more input with the board for individual or if there's a major situation going on?
Well, how we define what is individual and what is, I mean, we should, and I know it will be more work for Eric and for us maybe, but maybe we'll figure it out within a couple of weeks. I don't know. But I prefer to do it this way and then maybe adjust because we'll say, okay, this is how it is, and only if something major, but to start without anything, I will just start from smaller and then even it will be more work for Eric and for us.
No, I just wanted to make sure I understood you right.
Well, as it is right now, we have a motion on the table for the resolution as it reads. So if you want to make any changes to this resolution as it reads, then I need someone to make a motion and say what they want it to say, Otherwise, we can keep discussing as well. I'm just trying to keep moving things along. So.
I do not know that I have words how to present. I will need to have help from you. I would suggest pause it and think it separately. We have still 3 weeks till school start. Do we need to really approve it today?
But we don't have another meeting between, well, I guess we can have another meeting. So, yeah.
And just find the right words. Like I said, I am not the one who will provide the right wording. I can provide ideas, but I need somebody to put it that it's understandable.
I don't want to put words in your mouth in an open meeting. So like, yeah, I could say things, but I don't want to like make an assumption without more, yeah.
The only thing I might add is
Yeah.
that our current plan is the plan that's proposed here on this resolution in terms of what we're actually doing. And so if we were to table this or we were not to move forward with this right now, that doesn't change our plan for the fall.
Right.
The plan for the fall is set in place. The purpose here is really to bring it to everyone's attention that here's what we're planning on doing as of this moment. And yes, we may have to make changes as we need to make changes, but that would be with board input, and I'm comfortable with that. I don't have any concerns about that whatsoever. And also remember that this is this is not a need. So if the board chooses not to move forward with this, it doesn't change our plan for the fall. It's still reflected here. All I did was take our plan that we've already planned. Something to consider.
I can go along with the consulting the whole board, changing the wording. If that works for everybody.
I think the issue it would be, and I'm going to speak for you, is a consultation with the board, or is the superintendent directed by the board to make a change? So that would be so either the superintendent is authorized after consultation with the board, or the superintendent, or the board directs the superintendent to make a change. So that's kind of, and so consultation I don't think is dramatically changing the resolution as it is. If what your point is you would like us to direct or authorize, then I think that might serve us better by having more time to think about how we want that.
One other idea is to strike all of section 2. Just remove section 2. It still says here's what the start of the school year is going to be. We may have to change it as we need to. The superintendent will keep the board updated. That's another idea too, in terms of rather than making it more complicated.
Right.
Again, it doesn't change how it really doesn't change how we're operating right now.
No.
Either way, quite frankly. But I understand the concern of what's presented. So that's another option too.
I would be fine with removing section 2.
Well, we would need a motion on doing that as well.
I make a motion to remove the section 2 from our resolution adopted health and self-measure for 2021-2022.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Yes, we have a first and a second. Do you want to discuss any further?
Okay, can you give me the motion one more time, please?
The motion is to leave the resolution as it is, but remove section 2, which gives the superintendent the authority to change the plan as needed. So basically, if a scenario would be things change, and then we would be forced to come to a meeting so that you could tell us that we're making a change.
But going back to, I think, what Scott was saying, is this just every time there's a different situation, we do this?
We could try and see.
Because we don't know what the year's going to bring, to be honest. I mean, it might level out, it might be up and down. I think we need to start somewhere.
Well, I mean, we have 3 weeks. So, I mean, if we work on some of this wording as we go, we have another meeting the first week of school, correct?
Right.
That
We can also meet earlier. We can have special meetings.
I mean, we have time, I think.
So what this does is this formalizes the plan that we've had on our website all summer long.
Correct.
So this formalizes that. It doesn't mean that if something changes, we would probably need to call a meeting and come together to discuss why we're making a change, or why the superintendent is recommending a change. So. All right, are we ready to vote on this then, or anything else to discuss? All right.
So we're gonna vote on it as amended, so.
Yes, first we're gonna vote on the amendment, and then we'll go back and vote on the rest. That's correct procedure, right? Yes.
You know what
We don't often do this.
what that means if, what, for the amendment, I understand now we go back to resolution, what that mean, which one we are approving?
Then we would be approving the resolution with the amendment. Yes. So,
Sorry.
no, we don't do this very often. So. And I only take a training on this once a year, so you forget. So, and Robert's rules is weird, so.
You're fine, Julie.
And I got an audience and everything, so. All right, is there any other discussion about the motion for the amendment on the table? I will call for a vote then. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I do have to, sorry. Caitlin's nodding her head.
Roll call.
Yes, we'll do a roll call. I will call your name and then say aye or nay, yes or no, whichever you prefer. So David.
Yes.
India.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Julie is yes. Katie.
Yes.
And Charlie.
Yes.
All right, so the amendment removes section 2. And so now we'll go back then to vote on the original motion of the resolution, now without section 2. Is there any further discussion about the resolution? As I know it. Okay, hearing none, then we'll call for a vote. Again, this is a roll call. Dave.
Yes.
Adita.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Julie is yes. Katie.
Yes.
And Charlie.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries. Yes, we're good. I read back in my rhythm. No, I welcome the discussion. So
I'll just say one thing.
Yes.
I appreciate all the emails from the community as well. So through the year, please continue to send those. It's very eloquent and it's really good advocacy that all of you are sending those emails to us.
and not just about this issue.
No, any kind of issue.
We would love to hear about something non-COVID related. That sounds great.
Yeah, it helps us know exactly where you're feeling and where your mood is. So it's very helpful.
And everyone's been so respectful. So I really appreciate that as well. So yeah, no, fun. I gotta do Robert's rules way more than I ever did. That was super fun. All right, let's move on then to item C. Would someone like to make a motion about our district calendars?
I make a motion to approve our district calendars for year 2022-23 and 2023-24.
Second.
We have a first and a second. And just a note that this year's calendar, the Hartley conferences are different than all the others, and that is not reflected yet in this 22, 23, and 23, 24 because they want to see how it goes this year.
Right.
So these might come back just for a change once they know if they like doing their conferences that way. So any other discussion about the district calendars? All right, hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Can I get a motion to approve the Clifton Larson Allen engagement letter? Or can I get a motion about it, whether or not you want to approve it?
I'll make a motion to approve the Clifton Larson Allen engagement letter.
Second.
First and a second, any discussion? And this is just our annual letter securing the services of Clifton Allen Larson to perform our audit every year, correct? Yep. All right, if there's no further discussion, I will call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. And then we're acknowledging the receipt of the 2021-2022 General Business and Purchasing Procedure Handbook. And this handbook informs staff about the general business and purchase procedures to be followed. So this is an acknowledgement of the updates. And then item F is acknowledging the 2021-2022 Student Activity Account Handbook. This was adopted in 2014. Both of these were adopted in 2014. This handbook goes into further detail regarding student activity accounts and informs staff about the general business and purchase procedures to be followed. The school district recommends acknowledgement of these updates. And then we'll acknowledge the 2021-2022 employee handbook. The school board approved this adoption in January 2014. So this is an acknowledgement of updates to the employee handbook. Acknowledge the 2021-2022 purchasing and credit card handbook. The school board approved this adoption in November of 2014. The handbook informs applicable staff with credit card and or purchasing cards about the specific parameters and business procedures to be followed regarding this payment tool. And this is an acknowledgement of those updates. And finally, item I, acknowledge the 2021-2022 fiscal compliance manual. The school board approved this in January 2017. This handbook is a requirement for our federal funds. It informs staff associated with the federal programs about the specific federal parameters and business procedures to be followed, and this is acknowledgement of these updates. Thank you for all of those. Item J, can I get a motion on the school handbooks as presented?
I'll make a motion that we approve the school handbooks as presented for 21-22 school year.
This is for ECSE and this.
That's it.
Katie can have a second. Been quiet. Any discussion about these school handbooks? All right, hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. And I should go back and say all of these handbooks, it's all online. So anyone who wants to read all the hard work that goes into these handbooks, you can certainly go and do so. Can I get a motion for item K about the additional fundraisers?
I'll make a motion to approve the additional fundraisers as presented.
Second.
First and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Get a motion for item L. No, let someone else read that.
I'll make a motion to approve the financial agreement between Independent School District 829 and Southwest Metro Intermediate District 288 for level 4 staff.
Second. We have a first and a second. And this is just the formal agreement of what we've already talked about.
Correct.
All right, if there's any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Can I get a motion for item M?
I'll make a motion to approve the financial agreement between ISD 829 and South Metro Independent Intermediate District 288 for transition.
This is the 18 to 21 program?
Yeah.
All right, I have a first. Can I get a second? Thank you. First and a second, any discussion?
I think this is a wonderful program.
It's very exciting, yes.
Yeah, I'm excited to, and Diane Reisler is the director for that, yeah, or the lead. No further discussion. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Can I get a motion for item N?
I'll make a motion that we approve reviewed policies 401, 402, 403, 404, 405, 406, and the one that goes with 406.
Second.
Thank you. First and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. And that brings us to the end of our action items. I realize we never really did read the resolution, but we're all good. So, yeah, I think we talked about it enough. So, upcoming items and reminders. Back to school stuff is starting here. So Mr. Huska talked about new staff is coming next week. Returning staff is coming the following week. I know there's open houses and orientations and lots of stuff going on. And then September 7th, it really gets exciting, especially for my household. So our next work session is Thursday, September 9th. And we'll be working on that agenda here shortly. And then our next regular meeting is Thursday, September 23rd. Please note that these are the second and fourth Thursdays, not the first and third, because we wanted to wait until the first week of school. That is all. Any other reminders that you can think of?
Is anybody else going to the 31st?
Yeah, I'll be there. The back to school, the lunch with all the staff.
Yes.
I will be.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be,
In the Clear Lake Park at 11 o'clock.
yes,
It'll be our full district get together.
yep. And it was in your most recent update as well, so yeah.
Are you cooking?
From the district, there you go.
Anything else? anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
First and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, guys. I know. I mean, they talk about it every year. I take notes.
How was it?
I think I
I forgot to pass these to you.
Oh, thank you.
Just Pete.